All right, what can I help you with?
Hey, thanks so much for having me first. And yeah, the biggest question that I have at this point in my journey and this whole thing is really I'm just about to start applying for jobs. I've applied for a few just to kind of, figure out the process and how I need to go about it. But I really want to start kind of going for it pretty hard. And it's just really confusing when you start looking at postings. And, you know, I know that a lot of it is a HR situation. They're not really looking for someone who knows every stack and who has 10 years experience for a junior position. I understand that, but it's sort of weeding through just the incredible amount of, things that I don't want to waste my time applying for things that I know make no sense for me. But I also don't want to just skip over things because I believe that they're asking for something I'm not capable of. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, it sounds like you're trying to sift through and figure out like which companies make sense to apply to based on their job postings. And you mentioned I think you kind of hinted towards HR maybe putting more technologies than what they need potentially. And so that you need to focus and double down a little bit more, but you also don't want to miss out on opportunities that you're qualified for, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I'm not looking to just send 100 applications a day because in my opinion, that might work for people. For me, I don't see that being a reasonable strategy. I got into this later in life. So I also, on some level, don't want to spend too many years somewhere. I think if I was younger, I might be willing to just say, hey, screw it. Like wherever I land, that's okay with me. I'll figure it out from there. And I am open to, anything. Don't misunderstand me. I'm looking to work. But, I also think there is got to be a better way to focus on, what's really people are looking for. And more importantly, if I can add value to that role, I don't want to be applying for jobs where I'm going to go sit in an interview if I get to that point and I know that I can't, add something to that business. It makes no sense. So, I know there's no way to be foolproof. It's sort of just trying to navigate how you can best, filter that down.
No, it makes sense. I get what you're saying. If you had to formulate a question around that, what would that question be? That's a tough one.
Yeah, exactly. My question looking at any job my whole life is always, would I hire me? Or would I hire me for this job? Or how do I make this place different? Moving into a completely new industry, I feel, for the first time in a really long time, kind of backwards in terms of what do I add? Or sort of how do I, even understand what they want from me and my skill set?
So you're trying to you have limited time. You're trying to develop an efficient process for landing a position. What is your current process? If you could sum it up in 30 seconds, what is it?
Like my overall study and
finding a job. We'll say the job search.
Yeah, sure. I'm just sort of starting to dive into it, but the goal is I'm looking right now. Right now, the way that I'm doing it is I'm trying to look every couple of days just to understand what's on the market and sort of what is in front of people, get an idea on some platforms of how many people in my area are looking for those things. And, just trying to pinpoint also places that seem to be hiring a lot or that are open often. I live in DC, so it's a lot of security clearance, which is interesting thing. So it does change sort of how I've approached it. I'm trying not to think about it too much, and people that I've talked to around here have said not to, but sorry, that's not 30 seconds. I'm trying just every couple of days to understand what's available and what I think I might fit into. And I just don't know where to go from there in terms of I've applied to things that I know, or I feel confident that I could, I would fit in that role. But
do you know many. So what's the job title you're applying for?
I mean, I've been focused on front end essentially, but anything in like the front end JavaScript full stack world. I'm trying not to focus on anything that says junior. I've kind of just like scratched that off the
Why?
list. I mean, if it pops up, I'm certainly going to look at that post, but I don't want to limit. I don't know. I feel like confident enough that I want to get into a room if I feel like the technologies they're looking for, I fit. So if it says, senior, I'm not really probably not going to ship an application to them. But if it's nondescript, I will for sure. Oh yeah, I'm looking for a front end role essentially.
Gotcha. Okay. So this is assuming you essentially have unlimited positions to apply to in DC. It sounds like you're not running out of jobs to apply to if you're skipping the junior roles or the junior titles, which is fine. If you do start running out of jobs to apply to, I don't see why you shouldn't apply to a junior title. Like especially in 2023, I think just landing a position and getting a year of experience under your belt, it opens up so many opportunities. And I think that's kind of like that initial milestone a lot of people need to aim to hit. Now, I love that you might value yourself higher than what you
just to clarify, I'm applying for junior jobs.
You are with junior in the title.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
When you said scratch it off your list, what do you mean?
I'm trying not to like focus on it. A lot of times you'll watch things where people are kind of hunting those positions. So I'm trying not to, look at it in a way where like I can only apply to a position which lists, these criteria. I really want to open it up, and I'm more than willing, to sort of do that.
Okay.
But so no, I'm open to everything.
Okay. No, that makes sense. And that's good to know. So you probably have like a list of job boards that you apply or find positions with, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So when you apply, do you apply directly on the job boards or go directly to the website?
Yeah, if possible, there's only been one place that I couldn't find sort of an avenue through their site. Mm-hmm. But no, in general, I would try to at least look at, the company and what they're up to. And I've got to craft like at least a little bit, a paragraph of a cover letter. So I try to go through their portal.
Okay, perfect. So you're doing a lot of right things with that so far, and you're doing a little company research. When you apply, are you following up with anyone on LinkedIn?
Not specifically, no. I'll be dead honest. I'm not like in terms of LinkedIn and recruiters. That's like something that I just don't really understand how it works or what they're exactly up to. So no, that's not a thing that I've done. And networking is something that certainly I think everyone probably says they have to get better at, but I definitely need to be better. And I've tried in the last 6 months to really get out there and sort of be meeting up with people behind me and in front of me, just to sort of talk. It gets pretty solitary, I guess. Like when you're self-learning, you certainly, I spend an incredible amount of time sort of by myself at my desk. So I found that to be very valuable, in terms of personal. But yeah, for jobs, I haven't really.
Okay. What's your most meaningful, I don't know if I'd call it like an accomplishment or meaningful progress you made with forcing yourself to network over the past 6 months? Was it like a meetup you went to where you just connected with a lot of right people? Was it a hackathon? What was the most meaningful one?
That's interesting. Yeah. Probably the most meaningful was like a connection that I made through a friend who's not in software or tech at all, but had someone in his family who was, and kind of gave me a cold email, who I reached out to and had them, and, they were very nice and went through my GitHub and some projects that I sent them in my portfolio. And it was super valuable just to hear somebody with, a lot of real world experience sort of discuss my code and how it was, especially arrangement and sort of how I was doing work. It was really nice to hear. And I feel like at this point, it's like what I'm really craving is sort of a professional environment, less for like the job of the job, but more for the environment of being around people who are writing code all day and understanding it better, through how they see it. So yeah, I just now have started to look for meetups and things in the area, and ways to get better at it. And, I was terrible in my 20s at networking. So trust me, I'm not getting any better, but I'm trying to, see this as a good opportunity to try something really outside of my, normal.
What's the next developer meetup you're going to go to?
There's one that's happening in Baltimore next month. That's like a hackathon. I don't know the exact details of it. And I always sort of, that sounds so interesting. Hackathon. Oh, fun. And I sort of was like, well, I don't, belong in this thing. Like I'm learning this whole other thing. It has nothing to do with that. So it did take me a long time to sort of really look at it and be like, oh yeah, all right, never mind. That would be really valuable. So yeah, next month, I'm hoping to go to the first one and just sort of check it out and see how it goes.
You said it doesn't really involve what you're working with. Can you expand on that?
I just didn't understand, I think. I just was too ignorant to like understand. Like when I hear hackathon, I'm like, oof, like that must be people who know things. You have to know a thing to go to something called that. And it took me way longer than I would like to admit to sort of look into them and be like, oh, I understand. Okay, this is fine. I should go to one of these. Okay,
cool. How far is Baltimore from where you are?
About an hour, a little less.
I don't know. Okay. I think that's a great idea. I think you are, I love that you're doing company research, even if it's just a paragraph. I usually recommend don't go over half a page for cover letters. Like the whole process of doing company research, sending your resume, sending your cover letter and curating the cover letter, and then potentially following up with the recruiter. You can wait a few days afterwards, but I feel like that whole process shouldn't take more than a half an hour when you become efficient at it. Mm-hmm. And those are more meaningful applications. But I think you are just leaving money on the table by not following up, even like just following up with a recruiter on LinkedIn saying, hey, I put in the application a few days ago. I just want to know, like, I actually did research into this company. I really like what you guys are doing here. I'm really interested in this position. I just want to let you know. Like a simple message like that can go a long way because 99% of people aren't going to do something like that. Or they'll just like spam everyone on the tech team and say, hey, I put in an application. Can you get me a job? Like something that's not really meaningful. A lot of recruiters, they want people that want to work at the company where the values kind of align. And so that's why you got to be applying to companies that also share your values. Another thing that you can do is, I want to ask you, what's like your best project that you love talking about in an interview, or just like something you think is the most impressive on your portfolio?
Yeah, sure. I think like the project that I like the most and what I work on the most and am sort of been expanding for a long time or for many months is, it's a pretty like straightforward CRUD app that's called Spot Finder. And so like my hobby is I love skateboarding, right? So my whole life I've been a big skateboarder. And, you go to a new city, can't find anything to skate. You're there for 2 days. You don't know what to do. You're rolling around. It's horrible, right? So I built this app. And when I started even doing this, I had no intentions of this being a career. So this is sort of spawned out of this. I was interested in building this project. And essentially it's just a CRUD app that you can log in, authenticate, post spots that you find in different cities. Other people can, if you're logged in, you can either rate those or leave reviews. Pretty straightforward and easy. But I've been kind of building it, over and over. I built it 2 times. And now I'm starting to finally add features and get it to a spot where it feels a little better. But yeah, it's been great. It's kind of spawned all of this, really. That one app sort of built a lot of this.
That's really trajectory.
Cool. Yeah.
I like that. Yeah. So you have an app that essentially, relatable things that you can look for. So when you're doing a little research into the company, you can kind of just like find out, okay, is this position a product-based position? What are they building? All right, look at their app, look at their web app. And you can look and say, oh, do they have like location services on their app? That is something that's relatable, transferable from your personal project into their main project. Maybe, I don't know. I've never been a skater, but I feel like a lot of the skaters that I've met, fairly well connected into the community, care about the issues happening in the community. I wonder if you might even find like more progressive companies that do like on the ground kind of stuff where maybe they connect. I've heard of like, you could just have like portals, even internal tools where, wherever people need to go, like they can connect with each other. They have their own internal chat app. They have their own, but like the philosophy of like, okay, but we actually care about what's happening in this community. So we built an app to solve problems in this community. So like if your values align in terms of kind of your upbringing, et cetera, like you can map that into a company that also shares those values. So you can take your project and the feature specifically that's going to map to the product, but you can also take your personal values in life and map those to the values of the company as well and what they're trying to solve.
Yeah, that's really interesting, right? Sort of focusing on, that's interesting. Wow.
It's more powerful than just a bunch of cold applications. And that's where like you stand the biggest chance of getting a position that's going to value you, that's also going to pay you more because like you're more of a cultural fit as well. Right. When you aim for companies like that, I feel like that's where you become efficient with your time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it. I mean, do you think that there's ever a spot for sort of cold, no job posting sort of inquiries? Like for a place that say like a place that I think that I would fit well, or that something that I do aligns with what they do. I mean, is that way out? I mean, is that way out of the box for a normal?
Essentially creating a job that they haven't posted,
or just saying like, hey, I can do what you guys do, and I'm, might fit there.
Yeah, 100%. People create jobs for themselves every single day. I mean, in order to get better with that, you just got to try it. Yeah. You could even you might even practice like going to a couple local businesses and just saying, hey, notice your website was made in 2001. Right. Would you like me to make it? And you could sell that idea so you can get practice working with businesses and creating those opportunities when they didn't really come to you and they haven't, so you could do that with like your favorite shops that you go to, small shops. That I think that's a great start to do that, to get more comfortable with it. But yeah, you can definitely talk companies into creating a position for you, given that you can prove that you can provide value for them.
Sure. Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's like it seems so like they're going to tell you what they need and you need to fit them. So it's really interesting to look at it from a position of like, all right, like what do you offer and who might fit what I offer, instead of like, do I fit what they offer? That's a different way to look at it.
It is. Generally, people are pretty unsuccessful with it.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But there are people like, maybe you grew up with people that kind of just like, they always found opportunities. They always were hustling. They were always like, and I mean that in a positive way, they were always like creating something, or they were the go-to in your friend group, or like they could always just take a situation and turn it into something. Sure. And I find that people that had that personality, I think that's just like initiative and practice over and over and over until like you just get, you no longer have fear for it. And you don't fear rejection. You just put it out there. And people like that would throw out their ideas all the time, and 95% of them get rejected, but a very small portion just might work, or it works out somewhat for them. But I feel like developing that initiative over time is something that will allow you to just get better at creating those opportunities out of thin air, essentially. So it might, like, you could try it, and I would start with local businesses, like your local favorite shops, stuff like that.
I can imagine that path is a struggle. But more important than that, it's like it's interesting to just be able to look at this from a different perspective sometimes, because you're hunting jobs and reading sometimes I just like have to stop and walk away because I'm like, I don't know how many of these things I can read that all sort of say the same thing. Like they're cutting and pasting templates too, and I understand that. I mean, I've come from a long background in management too and hiring. I've hired in the past hundreds of people and seen thousands of applications. So I feel like I have some perspective on, maybe what is good or certainly what is a bad idea. But I definitely do feel kind of an uphill battle with a resume in terms of, I have a long work history and just none of it applies to what I'm hoping to do, for a living, which has really driven me to sort of try to build things that I feel like if you can get me in a room and we can sit down and look at them, I hope that can help me get one up on degrees and experience and all those things that everybody worries about.
Yeah, networking is going to be king for that. Hackathon, I think, is a good idea. Reaching out to recruiters is a good idea. Meeting people at meetups is a great idea as well. I think just building your connections. I always talk about like being transparent and sharing your thought process when you go, just by posting stuff on LinkedIn, even just like the idea of some really basic, hey, I've been working on this app to connect a lot of people. You can post different positions, skate spots. What do you guys think of it? Give me some feedback, right? Mm-hmm. And that can get shared. And when someone likes it or comments, engages, if someone in their side, their connections, they see, like if they often look at that person's content, if they engage with your content is now going to appear on feeds of, random other people. That's a way to kind of spread your LinkedIn and build connections that way. But networking is definitely going to be king for a lot of that. There's one other thing that I want to mention. I forgot. Oh, your resume. So your resume, you mentioned you had like a long history as well. Hopefully your resume is like mainly focused on you being a software engineer. It should scream software engineer. You're not highlighting like you can put a work resume. That's fine. Mm-hmm. Are you, when you say you have like a long history, is it like 3 months at this company, 3 months at this company, or you've just been working? Okay.
No. Yeah. I mean, I've culled the resume, down drastically to try to focus, on sort of everything that I can put into it without bloating the thing, or without just looking like I'm trying to add every single thing I've ever done. But yeah, it's very difficult. I mean, I'm trying to figure out sort of like what is going to catch somebody's eye, and like, I don't. It's tough. It's really hard to understand even. Like, I mean, I have a project section, which is small. It's not like this huge chunk, but my resume is small. I mean, it's a single page. So maybe. Have
you seen my live stream where I just reviewed a bunch of resumes?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Watch it. It's worth it. I think it'll solidify exactly what your resume should look like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Watch that afterwards, and I can even send it to you via email if you want.
Great.
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about a lot of the right things. I think you're probably slacking on networking. I think the hackathon will be strong, but I mean like networking, like you taking that initiative to reach out on LinkedIn. I think you're underutilizing LinkedIn. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And what do you think is the best? I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
What is the? I mean, LinkedIn is a thing that like I look at and I use, but I don't really understand the engagement in that way on that kind of a platform. So, I mean, is there a best sort of way to engage on? Are you talking about publicly, like just posting sort of projects and what I'm up to and those types of things?
That's one side of it. So initially I was talking about on LinkedIn, reaching out to recruiters, DMing them. I think even with a free account, maybe you get up to like 50 credits, or maybe not that many, but you should be able to send at least a few free DMs out, or you can connect with recruiters. You can go to the search, look up like recruiter, or software engineer recruiter, tech recruiters. I mean, you could just like Google and just try to like, I don't think a lot of recruiters are going to put like software engineer recruiter, et cetera, but they'll be posting a lot of positions in their feeds about what types of positions they're hiring for. If you're looking for, yeah, we can go into like a whole mess. So I want to try not to go into depth, but essentially you could search for people in the software engineering industry and you could just click add connection. If you think, you vibe with them, or you might want to connect with them for some reason, just connect. And what you can do, you can create a bunch of connections and then start posting your content, talk about your project, talk about, like, are you obsessed with Tailwind? You're just like, I love this library, or I hate this library, right? But talk about it. Understood. And those connections are going to see it. And also, if any of your connections engage with that content by liking it or commenting it, then their connections will see it. Their connections that care about their content. Mm-hmm. And so it kind of just gets, it gets spun out to a bunch of random people that you're not even connected with, but you have to create content to be able to do that. So you can talk about your projects, but also you can engage with other people's content. If you're connected with people, you'll have a feed. Mm-hmm. And so if it's developers, people talking about their projects, you're like, that's pretty cool. I could just like it, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I don't think liking it specifically is going to really get you a lot of connections, but it will strengthen potentially that connection with a person that you liked. But if you create a comment, their connections will be able to see that comment, and you might get it. Like, if you post something that's actually pretty constructive, it creates value in that conversation, then boom, I want to connect with this person. And I like, even just engaging with other people's content with comments, people just send a bunch of connection requests if I say something that contributes a value. And if I don't get any connection requests. So that's how that can work. But I think a lot of people underutilize LinkedIn in content creation, because I think, like, I don't think you should need to go out of your way to do a blog, because that's a long-term strategy. I don't think you need to create YouTube videos, live stream. I don't think you need to do anything. But if you are going to, you, at the bare minimum, you should at least be engaging on LinkedIn. Like, this is the platform that's going to create a lot of those connections in this specific industry. Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. I think I've been really underutilizing it and sort of looking at it as a job board, So yeah, that's nice to hear. I think I'll certainly look into better strategies to use LinkedIn sort of as a social platform.
Awesome. Cool. Love it. I just, okay. Pretty much out of time. So cool.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries. We're going to chat a couple minutes afterwards. I will send you that link.
Thank you.
But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for coming on.
Great. Yeah, thank you so much. It was nice to just talk through it with somebody and sort of hear another perspective.